So you clicked on this video. You probably did it because you're bored, and I get it. There is a strange pandemic right now that nobody wants to admit. You are more bored than any generation in human history, despite having access to more entertainment than kings and queens could have ever imagined centuries ago. And the problem is that this isn't just some casual observation. Scientists have been studying this phenomenon for years, and what they've discovered will open your eyes to what that restless really means. That feeling that you've been calling boredom, it's not what you think it is. So what is boredom really? And why does it feel so intensely uncomfortable that we'll do almost anything to escape it? Well, let me share something that happened to a researcher I read about that perfectly illustrates this. He was studying postal workers back in the 1980s, and one of his subjects had a job where all he did 8 hours a day was take mail bags and turn them inside out to check for remaining letters. That's it. The same motion, hundreds of times every single day. One day, this worker told the researcher something that stuck with me. Yesterday at work, I just started weeping. But here's the crazy part. He didn't stop working. He kept turning those mailbags inside out while tears streamed down his face, because that's what he was supposed to do. The researcher described it as watching someone live out the myth of Sisyphus in real time. Endless, meaningless repetition that broke something deep inside this person's mind. This story reveals what boredom actually is. It's your brain's alarm system screaming that your current situation is not meeting your fundamental human need for meaning and purpose. When neuroscientists scan the brains of bored people, they discover something fascinating. The areas responsible for daydreaming, nostalgia, and big picture thinking light up like a Christmas tree. But simultaneously, the parts of your brain that control attention and decision making essentially shut down. Think of your mind like a car on a road trip. Your attention is the headlights. They show you where you're going and help you navigate. Your sense of meaning and purpose is the fuel tank. It's what motivates you to keep moving forward. When you're bored, it's like your fuel tank hits empty and your headlights go dark simultaneously. You're sitting in a broken down car in the middle of nowhere, unable to see where you're going or muster the energy to figure it out. That's why boredom feels so terrible. Your brain is literally stuck between wanting to think about the big picture of your life while being completely unable to take any action about it. Now, you might be wondering, if boredom is this natural human experience, why does it seem like everyone is complaining about being bored more than ever before? Shouldn't we be less bored now that we have Netflix, TikTok, video games, and virtually unlimited entertainment at our fingertips? The answer to this paradox lies in a massive change that happened to human society, and it's something that most people have never considered. Let's imagine that you lived 500 years ago as a typical farmer. Your entire day would be consumed by life or death activities, tending the crops, caring for animals, maintaining your shelter. If you didn't do these things correctly, your family would literally starve. But here's what's interesting. Your meaning tank would be overflowing. You'd have crystal clear purpose from your role in the community, deep religious beliefs that explained life and death, cultural traditions passed down for generations, and tight family bonds formed through mutual survival. Every action had obvious importance. Every day had a clear structure. Your ancestors had given you a complete roadmap for how to live, what to value, and why it all mattered. Then something changed. Starting in the 1600s, as people moved to cities and began working in factories, something unprecedented happened. For the first time in human history, large numbers of people had repetitive work that felt meaningless, combined with enough free time to actually notice their emptiness. Etymologists can track this change by watching when words for boredom first appeared in different languages. Most show up in the 17th century, precisely when this shift happened. And here's what we've actually lost because of it. Modern life has given us incredible freedom to choose our own meaning and purpose, but it's also stripped away the automatic sources of meaning that sustained humans for thousands of years. Most of us don't have strong religious frameworks, tight-knit communities, or clear cultural roles handed down by our ancestors. This means that while a medieval farmer had their meaning provided automatically by their culture, you have to actively create your own sense of purpose. That's simultaneously liberating and exhausting. You get to choose how to live, but you also have to figure out why it's worth living. Add this to our modern expectation that life should be meaningful and fulfilling at all times, something that would have seemed absurd to previous generations, and you can see why our meaning tanks are constantly running on empty. We've essentially created a world where everyone needs to become their own philosopher while being constantly distracted by entertainment designed to hijack our attention. So, what happens when you find yourself in that broken down car, bored and stuck without meaning or direction? Most people don't realize this, but your brain automatically pushes you toward one of three specific responses. The path you choose in these moments literally shapes who you become as a person, and one of these paths is so dangerous that ancient monks called it the noonday demon. Let me paint you a better picture with this somewhat disturbing story. A team of researchers wanted to understand what bored people actually do when they're given options. So they set up an experiment where they put people in a room and made them bored by showing them a video of two guys hanging laundry. Then they placed worms on a table along with a coffee grinder. The results were disturbing. Bored people were significantly more likely to grind up the worms for no reason other than they were bored. They became cruel just to feel something. In other studies, bored people were more likely to steal money from strangers they'd never meet again. Not because they needed the money, but because causing harm temporarily filled their empty meaning tank. One study even found that people would rather give themselves painful electric shocks than sit alone with their thoughts. This reveals the three paths your bored brain can take. Path 1. The demonic route. You harm others or yourself to temporarily feel purpose. This might look like trolling people online, picking fights with loved ones, or engaging in self-destructive behaviors. The temporary surge of intensity tricks your brain into thinking that you've found meaning, but it's completely hollow. Path 2. The numbing route. You grab your phone, turn on Netflix, or scroll social media. This puts your brain on cruise control. You're moving, but you're not actually going anywhere you chose to go. Your attention gets hijacked by algorithms designed to keep you engaged, but you never get to sit with your thoughts long enough to figure out what actually matters to you. Path 3. The growth route. This is the hardest option. You literally force yourself to push through the discomfort, sit with the uncomfortable feelings, and use that big picture thinking your brain is trying to do. You might go for a walk, journal, create something, or simply think about what you actually want from life. The third path requires effort when you feel least motivated to make an effort, but it's the only one that actually solves the underlying problem. It's also the only path that leads to increased creativity, better decision-making, and genuine fulfillment. And here's where things get really concerning. That second path, reaching for your phone when you're bored, isn't just a harmless way to pass time. Recent research has revealed that our phones have created what psychologists call a vicious cycle that's actually making us more bored, not less. And most people have no idea this is happening to them. A research team tracked people's phone usage and boredom levels over several months. What they expected to find was that phones reduced boredom. After all, that's why we reach for them. But what they actually discovered was the opposite. People who consistently used their phones to escape boredom reported feeling bored more frequently than people who found other ways to handle it. Think about your own experience. How often do you find yourself scrolling through TikTok or Instagram only to close the app and immediately feel that restless, empty feeling again? You just consumed dozens of videos, but somehow you feel less satisfied than when you started. Here's what's happening in your brain. When you reach for your phone during boredom, you're getting just enough artificial meaning to keep your engine running, but your attention headlights aren't pointed toward any destination you actually chose. Instead, they're being controlled by recommendation algorithms designed to maximize engagement, not your well-being. It's like being in a car where someone else has taken control of the steering wheel. You're moving, but you have no say in where you're going. Worse, the fuel you're getting from this digital entertainment is like a cheap substitute that leaves toxic residue in your tank. Over time, it actually creates holes in your ability to generate meaning naturally. This is why you can spend hours consuming content and still feel empty afterward. You're not just failing to address your boredom, you're actively making it worse by training your brain to expect constant external stimulation rather than developing its natural ability to create meaning from within. The most insidious part is that this makes you reach for your phone even more frequently, creating a cycle where you become dependent on external entertainment to function, while simultaneously losing your capacity for genuine fulfillment. Alright, so phones aren't going away, and neither is modern life's meaning deficit. You can't just move to a medieval farm and solve this problem. But here's what most people don't realize. You can actually train yourself to use boredom as a tool for building a more meaningful life. The key is understanding exactly how to work with your brain instead of against it. There's a concept in Italian culture called dolce far niente, the sweetness of doing nothing. Italians have an entire cultural tradition around intentionally embracing moments of non-action, not as laziness, but as a way to reconnect with themselves and their values. Similarly, the Dutch have a practice called niksen, which literally means to do nothing. But this isn't passive scrolling or mindless entertainment. It's the deliberate practice of sitting with yourself without trying to be productive or entertained. Ancient Taoist philosophy goes even further, suggesting that periods of non-action are essential for realigning your actions with your deepest values. They understood something we've forgotten. The uncomfortable feeling of boredom isn't a problem to be solved. It's information to be processed. So with that said, here are the specific strategies that research shows can transform your relationship with boredom. First, learn to recognize it. Most people never consciously notice when they're bored until they're already reaching for their phone. Practice taking a moment to identify the feeling. I notice I'm feeling restless and existential right now. This is boredom, and it's trying to tell me something. Second, accept it instead of fighting it. The urge to immediately escape boredom makes it worse. Try telling yourself, this feeling is uncomfortable, but it's also my brain trying to help me figure out what I actually want to be doing with my life. Third, use it for fuel. When you feel bored, that's actually the perfect time to engage in activities that build genuine meaning. Connect with people you care about, create something, get curious about something that interests you, or spend time in nature. The goal isn't to eliminate boredom, it's to develop the skill of sitting with it long enough to let it guide you toward activities and decisions that align with your actual values, rather than just whatever is most immediately stimulating. Finally, protect your attention. Set specific times when you allow yourself to use your phone for entertainment, rather than using it as an escape hatch every time you feel uncomfortable. This rebuilds your brain's natural capacity to generate meaning and purpose from within. So the next time you feel that familiar restless, empty feeling creeping in, you'll know exactly what's happening.